First, let's start with this case. I've been a first responder for the past 3 years. My schedule follows a rotating shift pattern with days and nights, which is consistent enough that I can tell you far in advance what days I'll be working. Because of this, I informed my entire family last year that I would be working on Christmas this year, and I reminded them again when we saw them more recently. This is the first time I've had to work on Christmas. My side of the family was very understanding. We made plans to celebrate on a different day with just my parents and siblings. However, my husband's family is very traditional when it comes to Christmas. They have a set routine. Everyone needs to be at my sister-in-law's house at 8 a.m. to open presents, and the entire day is spent together. When I asked if we could celebrate another day over the holidays instead, it was met with resistance. Statements like, "Christmas is on December 25th," or "Can't you just ask for the day off?" made it clear they weren't open to adjusting their plans. So, we agreed that my husband would attend solo this year. This morning, while I was at work, my husband, who has the day off, texted me saying, "It would be nice if you could come by for a couple of hours tomorrow after work." I declined for several reasons. The distance. My sister-in-law's house is about 90 minutes away, which means 3 hours of driving. On top of that, I would be driving home alone at night in less than ideal weather. The nature of my job. My work is often stressful, and by the time I finish a shift, my social battery is completely drained. The prior agreement. We had already decided it made more sense for me to stay home while my husband drove to his parents' house on Christmas Eve, so they could go to his sister's place together in the morning. Now, my husband is upset. He thinks I don't want to spend time with his family, and has been sending me passive-aggressive texts all day trying to guilt-trip me. For example, he said, "We don't know how much time we have left with my parents." His comments are working. I feel terrible, like I'm letting everyone down, and I worry that his family might think I don't want to spend Christmas with them. Would I be in the wrong if I stuck to our original plan and didn't make the trip to see his family tomorrow after work? Additional thoughts. Thank you to everyone who shared their perspectives. Last night was tough, but hearing from others has been very helpful. One of the comments stood out to me, "It's not the date, it's the day." I plan to use that line going forward to help explain the situation. Yes, part of my job involves answering emergency calls, which means my shifts can be unpredictable and emotionally draining. While my husband is mostly understanding of my schedule, he often struggles with long weekends or significant celebrations when I can't attend. I've suggested he do an observation shift to better understand my work environment, but he feels uncomfortable listening to emergency calls. I suspect part of the reason he even asked me to show up is that his father, who is in the early stages of dementia, might have asked when both of us would be coming, forgetting I wasn't planning to attend. My husband also dislikes showing up to family events without me and having to explain my absence. This is something we'll need to address, especially as we consider having children in the future. To all my fellow first responders, healthcare workers, shift workers, and anyone else in 24/7, 365 jobs, Merry Christmas. I hope you all find time to rest and recharge. Let's start judging. I work in the field of emergency services, and the fact is that we as a group are never off duty. And unless you are going to screw your colleagues, and they're going to somehow allow it, you have to take your share of holiday shifts. My family is completely used to celebrating important occasions with me on the wrong calendar date. OP, I don't know how long you have been with your husband, so maybe the situation is salvageable, but he needs to get with the program yesterday. You're not in the wrong. You work emergency services. I worked emergency services for 35 years. Holidays happen when we can organize them, sometimes not on the actual holiday. My family, my in-laws, they all understood this. It's normal. So many people have military, police, hospital, firefighters, and hospitality jobs that occur 24/7, 365. Your husband needs to realize your career is not like a business MF85 or whatever. You are an important part of society. You are not a dick. You are an important person with an important job. Your husband needs to get on board. It's about you, not his family. Do not feel guilt. Get this issue sorted. If he never understands and is going to be pressured by his family to pressure you, draw that line. You are fine. Thank you for doing the hard work of serving the public. I'm a dispatcher and I have some cuss words if you need them. You're not in the wrong. Driving 3 hours in the dark after a long shift isn't a great idea, even if it is Christmas. Assuming you usually attend these or other family events, there is no need to claim you don't want to spend time with his family. They were warned far in advance, and it's not fair to you that they are acting surprised and hurt. I mean, is there some reason in particular he is using the "we don't know how much time we have" guilt trip? Are his parents in bad health or very old? If not, I would very politely say to his family, they are probably the reason husband is pressuring you, I know you are disappointed, but told you I couldn't come ages ago. And I would appreciate if you stopped trying to guilt trip me about something I can't control. Next up, I'm the type of person who values honesty, especially when it comes to my feelings. If I don't enjoy something, I'll tell you, but that doesn't mean I won't follow through on commitments. When I agree to do something, I'll see it through to the end without complaining. Recently, this came up during a vacation I took with my older brother in Arizona. He planned several nature hikes, which I didn't mind. I generally find nature hikes fine. Not amazing, but not terrible either. However, I really don't enjoy walking uphill. Going downhill is easy. It feels like being nature's passenger. You let gravity do the work, and it's almost effortless. Walking uphill, on the other hand, is draining and leaves me sweaty. That said, I made a point not to complain during the hikes. Even when we were walking uphill, I kept up basic conversation with my brother and didn't let on that I wasn't particularly enjoying it. On the way back down, my brother asked me if I was having fun. I answered honestly, no. Not because of anything he did, I just didn't find the activity particularly fun. It wasn't bad, just satisfactory. Later, as he was driving me to the airport, he told me, if I ask you if you're having fun, don't say no. I get that it can be disheartening to hear someone isn't having fun when you're sharing an experience with them. But I also believe in being truthful when someone asks for my opinion. If I wasn't having fun, I don't see the point in pretending I was. What do you think? Should I have kept my feelings to myself in that situation? Or is honesty the best approach, even if it might not be what someone wants to hear? Let's start judging. You're in the wrong. You could have communicated your dislike of the hike with a simple, "Not really, but I'm enjoying spending time with you." You're being a dick. No one is in the wrong, but I think you and your brother would both benefit from understanding each other a little better. There's nothing wrong with giving him an honest answer, but it obviously hurt his feelings. Unless he already knew your feelings about that kind of hike and/or the things you do find fun, or unless you explained the context of your feelings afterward, your words made him feel guilty about failing to give you a fun time. He's wrong to say you shouldn't be honest, but most people aren't used to that kind of bluntness, and you failed to consider his feelings. In the future, you might benefit from finding a better balance of keeping your commitments without complaint and being more open about your preferences and desires. People feel good when they can have a mutually good time, and people tend to feel worse about a situation if they realize they're the only one enjoying themselves and the other is simply indulging or tolerating them. Hello, you're not in the wrong. As an autistic person, I find myself having to think about what other people want to hear instead of what is the appropriate response. I think in this case you can give more context, if it seems right, why the activity is or isn't fun without diving into detail. Expressing your own needs isn't necessarily complaining unless the problem has been addressed, or there is more nothing to be done, and you bring it up to guilt other people. Maybe say like, "Not very fun for me because long uphills aren't my thing," and cut off further response without being rude. I think bringing it up beforehand to your brother might help too, so the two of you can compromise. First, AmITheA Hole post, please be nice to your fellow Redditors. Next up, I'm 18 years old and have been a soccer referee since 2020. I've also played soccer for 12 years, so I'm pretty familiar with the game. However, I've been wondering if I handled a recent situation the right way. Last weekend, I was officiating a series of games for a boys' under-10 league. For players 10 and under in this league, there's a special set of rules, one of which involves the build-out line. The build-out line is a marker about 10 yards in front of the goalkeeping box on both sides of the field. According to the rules, if a player is behind the last defender, but not past the build-out line, they are onside, and any goals scored in that position count. This differs from the older age groups, where the standard offside rule applies. In the final game I reffed, a player on the blue team scored 3 goals while positioned behind the last defender, but still behind the build-out line. Since the goals followed the league's rules, I allowed them. However, a parent from the losing team wasn't happy about it. He began yelling that I didn't know what I was doing and insisted that all 3 goals should have been called offside. At one point, I overheard another parent quietly explain that the build-out line made the goals legal, but the shouting dad ignored it. The game ended 6-0, and the same dad started swearing loudly in front of the other parents and kids, saying things like, "This ref is terrible." After blowing the final whistle, I walked over to him and said, "Every one of those goals was legal because of the build-out line rules. You should consider learning the rules of the sport before you sign up your own child and swear in front of a bunch of kids." He looked furious and sarcastically clapped, saying, "Way to keep it professional, sir." Some of the other parents in his group looked angry as well, and I decided to leave after that. When I told my parents about it later, my mom laughed and thought I handled it well. But my dad said I shouldn't bother engaging with people like that because it lowers me to their level. Now I'm wondering, was I in the wrong for addressing the parent, or should I have just ignored him and moved on? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. If anything, you were far too nice. A lot of leagues will quickly kick out parents who are being disrespectful to the refs, especially if they're swearing at a kid's game. You're not in the wrong. The dad may have been sarcastic, but you truly did handle it in a calm and professional way. You swiftly schooled him and moved on. You're not in the wrong. The only thing I think you should maybe have done differently would be to give him this dressing down sooner. If a parent is being rude and disruptive, you can ask the coach to speak to them at any time. If they refuse to stop, you can ask them to leave the field/park. Him being loud and wrong was distracting for you. It was also certainly distracting for the kids trying to play and learn. That dad blew up because he's a hothead and he was embarrassed. That's on him. You shouldn't feel bad about it. Next up, hi, I hope this is the right place to ask for advice. I'm 14 years old and babysit for a few families in my neighborhood. On Friday, I was babysitting for a couple who recently moved into the city from the south. They live just a block from my house, so my parents were okay with me staying there until 10. The couple had told me they would be home by 9. However, they didn't come back at 9. By 9:45, I started texting them to check if they were on their way. When I got no response, I called my parents because I was starting to get worried. My mom came over to stay with me since it had been snowing heavily, and we were concerned about the situation. By 11:30, with still no response from the couple, we decided to call the police. I was really scared something had happened to them. The police took their names and address and were able to locate their license plate information. Within about 25 minutes, they found the couple at a friend's house. The couple called me after the police got involved, and they were upset that I had contacted law enforcement. I explained that I only called because they weren't answering my texts or calls, and my mom agreed that it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. I wasn't trying to get them into trouble. I was genuinely concerned. What if something had happened to them, or there was an emergency with their kids? They told my mom that I'm not mature enough to babysit if I behave like that. Now I feel bad because the police made them leave their friend's house, but I also think they should have answered their phone or let me know they were staying out later. What do you think? Did I overreact by calling the police, or was it reasonable to be that concerned? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. You're a literal child. They gave you an undertaking and failed to keep it or inform you. You attempted to contact them first. You sought advice from an adult, your mom. They disrespected not only you, but your parents, who were comfortable allowing you out until 10, not nearly midnight. You had no option to just go home when they didn't show because you were still responsible for their children. They're idiots, and you should warn other babysitters off them. You're not in the wrong. 3 things. You said they moved to your city from the south. I assume you mean a state that doesn't get a lot of snow? I live in Canada, and when it snows here, people who have lived here their entire lives forget how to drive. They could have been in an accident. They were jerks for not giving you the phone number of the place they were going to be. Cell phones run out of power and get left in purses. They should have given you contact information. You got advice from your mom. You didn't do this without thinking bit through or out of spite. You had legitimate concerns, and they were enough for your mom to agree that calling the police was a good idea. You did the exact right thing. They are upset because a 14-year-old girl was more responsible than they were. You're not in the wrong. The parents were irresponsible and took advantage of your services. When they did not respond to your texts and over 2 hours past their stated time of return, you had no reason to not call the police. Parents like this take advantage of younger babysitters and then act like they are not responsible for the fact they were unreachable for their children for a significant period. These are not your children. They are theirs. They should have been more responsible about communicating with you and negotiating new rates for the overtime. They got scared when they realized the police could have taken the kids rather than fine them, so they're taking it out on you.